quiet truth. There's a moment that happens to almost everyone, but no one really talks about it. It doesn't happen on a stage. It doesn't come with music or applause. It usually happens in silence. Maybe late at night, when your phone is finally down, when the distractions are gone, when there's nothing left to hide behind, and you're left alone with your thoughts. You start thinking about your life, where you are, where you thought you'd be by now, the promises you made to yourself, quiet promises that nobody else even knows about. I'll get serious this year. I won't waste time anymore. I'll become something more. And then a life happened. Days passed. Nothing changed. And now, sitting there in that quiet moment, you begin to ask yourself something honest. What am I actually doing with my life? What have I archived? Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that tears you down, but in a way that finally tells the truth. And if you sit with that question long enough, you begin to see something clearly. You've been waiting for clarity, waiting for motivation, waiting for the right time, waiting for life to somehow organize itself for you. But life has not been waiting. It has been moving every single day. And here's the truth that most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. Nobody is coming to save you. Not because you don't deserve help, not because people don't care, but because your life was never meant to be lived by anyone else. And once you stop resisting that truth, once you accept it fully, something inside you shifts, not loudly, but permanently. Chapter 1. The day you realize time doesn't care. There comes a moment when you notice something subtle but powerful. You're scrolling through your phone, and you see someone you grew up with. They've started something, built something, changed something about their life. And it hits you. Not jealousy, but awareness. Because you remember when you had similar ideas. You remember thinking, I could do that too. But you didn't. Not because you weren't capable, but because you waited. You waited to feel ready. You waited to be sure. You waited for everything to line up perfectly. And while you were waiting, time kept moving. That's the part nobody really teaches you. Time is not emotional. It doesn't care if you're confused. It doesn't slow down because you're unsure. It just goes. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca. And when that sinks in, it's uncomfortable because you start to realize the issue was never time. It was hesitation. Chapter 2. The comfort that's holding you back. Comfort doesn't always feel like a problem. That's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't look like failure. It doesn't feel like pain. It just feels normal. You wake up. You go through your routine. You do enough to get by. But deep down, you know you're capable of more. You just don't act on it. Because acting requires effort. It requires risk. It requires stepping out of your comfort zone and staying where you are. That feels easier. So you tell yourself, I'll start later. I just need a little more time. But here's what happens over time. You get used to not trying. You get comfortable with potential instead of progress. And slowly, that comfort becomes a quiet trap. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Neil Donald Walsh. But most people never reach that point. Because comfort doesn't push you out. It keeps you in gently. Chapter 3. The lie of, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. It sounds responsible. It sounds like you're being careful. But most of the time, it's fear wearing a smarter outfit. Because if you really think about it, what does ready even mean? Ready to not fail? Ready to not feel awkward? Ready to have everything figured out? That version of ready doesn't exist. Nobody starts fully prepared. Nobody begins with complete confidence. The people you admire today once felt exactly how you feel right now. Uncertain, unprepared, unsure of what would happen next. But they started anyway. There's something Marie Curie said. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. And understanding doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing, from trying, from failing, from adjusting. Clarity is not something you find before action. It's something you build through it. Chapter 4. When excuses stop working. At some point, something changes. Your excuses stop sounding convincing, even to you. You say, I don't have time, but you remember how much time you spend distracted. You say, I don't have resources, but you haven't even used what you already have. You say, I'll start soon, but soon has been your answer for a long time. And one day, you get tired, not physically, but mentally, tired of repeating the same cycle, tired of thinking about things you never act on, tired of knowing you're capable of more, but not showing it. And that's an important moment, because it means something inside you is waking up. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. James Baldwin. And for the first time, you're starting to face it. Chapter 5. Taking ownership without breaking yourself. Taking ownership is often misunderstood. People think it means blaming yourself for everything. It doesn't. It means recognizing where your power begins. It means saying, yes, things didn't go perfectly. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I could have done better. But instead of stopping there, you continue. You ask, what can I do now? Because the truth is, you can't change what already happened, but you can change what happens next. And that's where your power is. Ownership isn't heavy when you understand it properly. It's freeing because it removes the need to wait for anything outside of you. Chapter 6. Showing up when you don't feel like it. This is where things become real. Because motivation is unpredictable. Some days you feel ready. Some days you feel focused. And some days you feel nothing. Those are the days that define you. Because it's easy to act when everything feels aligned. But growth doesn't come from easy days. It comes from the days you show up anyway. When you're tired. When you're distracted. When you'd rather do anything else. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Not once in a while. Not when it's convenient. But repeatedly. That's what builds something real. Chapter 7. The loneliness no one talks about. Growth can feel isolating. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. You start focusing more. You start saying no to distractions. You start taking your time seriously. And not everyone understands that. Some people might question you. Some might even mock you. And sometimes, no one notices at all. That can feel discouraging. But it's also part of the process. Because this stage isn't about recognition. It's about foundation. It's about becoming someone before the world sees it. Chapter 8. Small actions, big shifts. There's a misunderstanding about change. People think it has to be dramatic. A big decision, a big moment, a big breakthrough. But most real change is quiet. It's waking up and doing one thing differently. It's choosing effort over excuses, just once, then doing it again the next day. It doesn't feel impressive, but over time, it becomes powerful. Because consistency builds identity, and identity shapes your life. Chapter 9. Becoming someone you trust. At some point, something deeper happens. You start keeping promises to yourself. Small ones at first. I'll do this today. And you actually do it. And slowly, something builds. Trust. Not from others, but from yourself. And that changes everything. Because once you trust yourself, you stop doubting every step. You move differently. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. Chapter 10. You stop waiting. And then one day, you notice something. You're no longer waiting. Not for the perfect time. Not for the perfect feeling. Not for someone to guide you. You just act. Even if it's imperfect. Even if it's small. You've stopped delaying your own life. There's a quote often attributed to Goethe. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And maybe that's what this has been about all along. Not becoming perfect, but becoming active. Closing. Your life is still in your hands. If you take nothing else from this, take this. You're not stuck. You're not too late. You're not incapable. You've just been waiting. And now, you don't have to anymore. Because nobody is coming to save you. And that's not a sad truth. It's a powerful one. Because it means you don't need permission. You don't need the perfect moment. You don't need anything outside of yourself to begin. You just need to decide, quietly, honestly, that you're done waiting. And when you do, that's when your life begins to change.